Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to step inside a wonderful little fairy tale to unlock a really powerful secret. It's a story about a lighthouse, a mysterious fog, and the surprising way our hidden feelings can shape the world all around us.
So let's just start with a kind of a wild idea. Can our feelings, the ones we keep tucked away inside, actually take on a physical form? Well, in the story we're exploring today, they do. We're going to look at the tale of a man whose worries literally clouded his entire world. All right, so let's set the scene. Our story begins on the Whisper Wind coast, at a lighthouse known as the Silent Sentinel, and its keeper was this really dedicated man named Silas. Now, Silas had this one core belief, that his most important job was to appear completely and totally unshakable, no matter what. So, whenever he felt tired or lonely, or maybe afraid that he might fail, he wouldn't say a single word. He'd just push all those feelings way down deep, convinced that's what it meant to be strong. But, as we're about to see, those feelings, they didn't just go away. They had to go somewhere. And that somewhere became what they called the shifting fog. Now, this was no ordinary fog. It was the physical form of everything Silas was trying to hide. The more he worried, the thicker and heavier the fog grew, until it was literally suffocating the very light he was sworn to protect. And this wasn't just in his head. It had real-world consequences. The ships out at sea, the ones that depended on his light to guide them to safety, they couldn't see it anymore. They just saw this weak little beam, a light that seemed, ironically, afraid of the dark. The very thing Silas was terrified of, failing his duty, was actually happening because of how hard he was trying to hide that fear. So, faced with this growing, creepy fog, Silas did what he thought he was supposed to do. He fought back. He polished and scrubbed and tried to fight this fog from the outside, completely missing where the real problem was coming from. And you can just picture his actions, right? They show he just totally misunderstands the issue. He's polishing that lamp until it's practically white hot. He's actually shouting at the fog, demanding it go away. He even tries sweeping it out of the air with a broom. But because the fog was coming from inside him, all that frustrating effort just added another layer of unspoken worry, which only made the fog even thicker. Sometimes it takes someone on the outside to see what we just can't see in ourselves. And for Silas, that fresh perspective came in the form of a young girl from the village named Eliza, and she noticed something that everyone else had completely missed. So Eliza climbs all the way up the lighthouse stairs, and she finds Silas looking exhausted and just miserable, and she asks him a very simple, very direct question, "What's wrong?" And Silas's reaction, well, it's incredibly telling. He immediately throws on that mask of strength. Wrong? Nothing is wrong. He denies it, he deflects, he puts on this show of false confidence. It's the exact same pattern. Hide the feeling, pretend it doesn't exist. But Eliza, she wasn't fooled for a second. And right here, this is it. Eliza delivers the core truth of the entire story. She points out the simple fact that Silas just couldn't see for himself. The fog isn't coming from the sea, it's coming from inside the tower. The darkness was coming from within the very structure that was supposed to be a beacon of light. And to prove her point, she shows him this tiny little crack in the stone wall, a place where the fog was actually seeping out. It's just a perfect metaphor of our own hidden vulnerabilities, isn't it? Those little cracks we try so hard to ignore, where our bottled up feelings can leak out and start affecting the world around us. Eliza explains to him that his secret worries are literally escaping through that crack. But for Silas, admitting this, well, it feels like a huge risk. I mean, his entire identity was built on being that unshakable tower of stone. And here it is, the question at the very heart of his struggle. It's a fear that so many of us have, right? If I admit I'm having a hard time, if I show that I'm vulnerable, will people think I'm weak? Will I lose their respect? And Eliza's answer just completely flips the whole idea of strength on its head. She explains that it's not about being flawless or unbreakable. Real strength is about being authentic, about being real enough to admit you have cracks so they can actually be fixed. And with that little bit of encouragement, Silas finally takes the leap. He speaks his truth out loud. "I am so tired. I am afraid I will fail." He makes himself vulnerable. And the very moment he speaks those honest words,
The fog outside just begins to dissolve. The external problem vanishes as soon as the internal truth is spoken.
So, what does this story really teach us about what it means to be strong? Let's break down the lessons from the lighthouse. The story really presents us with a choice between two different kinds of strength. You've got false strength, hiding your worries, polishing the outside, and trying to appear unshakable. And then there's true strength, and that's found in speaking the truth, fixing what's broken on the inside, and having the courage to ask for help. So the real takeaway here is seeing how these three lessons all connect. It starts with emotional honesty, just being able to name what you feel. And that honesty is what opens the door so you can accept help. And accepting that help, that is the act of strength that lets you finally mend those cracks. In the end, Silas's lighthouse didn't become strong despite his vulnerability. It became strong because of it. By choosing honesty over just the illusion of strength, his light became more reliable and way more powerful than it ever was before. And that really leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? This fairy tale, it isn't just about a lighthouse keeper. It's kind of a mirror for all of us. It's asking us to look at the fogs in our own lives, all the anxieties and pressures that can feel so overwhelming, and to ask ourselves one really powerful question. What simple, honest truth are we avoiding that might just cause our own fog to disappear?